or ruled Egypt before the gods. And then essentially, went from statue worship to idol worship into what we're currently at. We're at celebrity star worship,
Well,
pop
there you
idols.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Madonna, all this lot. It's all part of the same thing.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Continue.
But my thing is that obviously the Egyptian power structure that was in place then has never died out. Because if you look at the way the power structure has moved, like essentially when Egypt collapsed, you had the Exodus from Moses and stuff into the area of Israel and Palestine. And then the next major power structure was essentially with Rome. And if you go to Rome, you'll notice that there's Egyptian obelisks. If you go to Rome, you'll notice that there's Egyptian obelisks in front of the Vatican, in front of the Pantheon and stuff like that. They carried those things over there from Egypt.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Roman Catholics went on the Inquisition, slaughtering out any heretical like religions such as like the Cathars and the Bogomils. Moved through Europe and then essentially found a new power structure to erect in Paris. And obviously Paris has got, it's symbolic for power Aziz. It's already in the word.
Yeah.
But Paris, they moved the obelisks and stuff, Place de la Concorde on the Champs-Élysées alignment.
Yeah.
You got that whole symbolic area. And like when I went there the other day, incidentally, I went to the front of the Louvre, and they've got a aerial viewpoint of the layout of the Louvre, and it's an exact replica of Luxor Temple with the Avenue of Sphinxes running to Karnak Temple in Egypt, because I've been to the same place and I've recognised this. But there's no official statement anywhere that the Louvre is based on Egyptian temples and alignments and stuff, but it is, obviously.
Of course.
So this power structure, then once it had done in Paris, it decided that it wanted to find the new like centre of power, and it moved to London. And if you go to London, they've got an obelisk and stuff like that. You've got Big Ben. The official story is that Big Ben was named after this politician named Ben who stood up in Parliament and said, "Oh, let's call it Big Ben," and everyone laughed and said yes.
Yeah.
But it's not called Big Ben because of that. It's named after the Ben stone, which is like one of the very first. It stands proud in Egyptian history.
Of course, and even in Hebrew, Ben is the son of someone, so it's the big son.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Big Ben, for instance, is a huge obelisk type structure right near the obelisk and the London Eye, which is symbolic again for the all-seeing eye.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And then obviously this power structure moved from London to America. And then there we have it. America has been used as an excuse to run all these wars that it's needed to run until it's collapsed itself into the ground, and then America will die. And that's how I see it. America's been used, essentially, and they've used the people there.
Well, and that's also an interesting point. I mean, there's so much to touch upon on that, but just to be brief about it, even the fact that I think that they want that if we talk about America as an experiment, if you will, and much in the same way that we can look at the Soviet Russia as an experiment, but or communist Russia, but they might have wanted a certain kind of stock, if you will, of people or a certain type of breed, those who were willing to draw out the roots from their own country and just leave and have a certain type of mentality. And if you take all these different things into account, you end up with a really interesting picture that potentially is showing you that what you're mentioning here, that they wanted to use America for a specific purpose. But anyway, please continue. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if we're going on this premise that this power structure's been there and it's never died out and stuff, and then obviously you start looking at the English words and the language and stuff like that, and we're all connecting back to this idea of Sion, and then you start thinking, essentially, with English words, as I've said, you've got the word television, televi Sion.
Yeah.
So basically, everyone thinks the television is an evil hypnotic machine anyhow, I mean, other than the ones who enjoy it.
Yeah.
But, it's there to televise Sion.
Yeah.
And then you think of the word spiritual ascension, spiritual ascend Sion. It's the same, it's in the words of what we use.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's endemic and it's there, you can't get away from it.
Of course. And vision or eye Sion, that's even the eye in there, because it has to do with visualization or to see something, so.
Yeah. But this is where, like, I can start to, like, wrap this thing up slightly.
Yeah.
Is that, if you look at it, it starts becoming apparent that it's more to do with just, like, for instance, it's more to do than just someone hijacking a power structure and keeping it like in control. It's almost like it's, you know, to do with material reality itself. It starts to feel like that it's coming from something that's, you know, if you think of us as souls and spirits trapped in matter, then like this is where I'm starting to like perceive things, in the sense of, if you look at all religious figures throughout history, every single one of these illuminated, enlightened figures, every single one of them has a sun behind their heads. Right, so sun worship, again. And Christmas, for instance, you can't get away from Christmas. I mean, Matthew Deleuze talks about this stuff, and I recommend listening to Matthew Deleuze, because he's a very intelligent man, and he's a very, very special man. But Christmas, obviously, we're all driven into this worship of the sun at Christmas. You can't get away from it. If you've got kids, or if you're related to kids, you need to be part of it. You know, we all buy into this Christmas thing. Christmas is sun worship. If you look at the tree that you've got in your living room, you know, it's like the tinsel is a serpent. You've got an all-seeing eye at the top. You've got a bloody pagan tree, you know, pyramid thing that's sat in the corner of your room. And then Easter, obviously, again, it's more sun worship. And when kids, for instance, are all wanting the Easter eggs and stuff, it's nothing to do with the fact they're eating chocolate. They're buying into a ritual. They're buying into more sun worship, whether you look at it or not. And the same goes with, like, for instance, crematoriums that haven't got any kind of religion tied to it. If you look at crematoriums, there's sun symbolism at crematoriums. You look at number 10 Downing Street, above the number 10, there's a sun symbol, like above the, you know, the centre of where our Prime Minister resides. You look at Shell Petrol, and it's sun symbolism, you know. And then, for instance, something I found the other day, my UK driving licence, there's a hologram you can barely see, but I shone it in the light. It's the sun and a pyramid on my driving licence in Britain. You know, something you'd expect on the dollar bill. And so all I can say is that, essentially, with this symbolism, when people don't realise what they're looking at and what they're buying into, this stuff is like taking spiritual energy away from them. I.e., it's, you know, they don't realise what it's doing. I don't know how to really put that into words, but it's like, we've only got our five senses, and like we're aware of everything within those five senses. But much like with the, you know, the light spectrum, we're not aware of what microwaves and X-rays and infrared rays and everything are doing. There's stuff we don't understand, and like our five senses are a filter. And it's almost like that these symbols that have all been like fed with energy from, you know, if it was like a talisman, like they feed the energy from the stars in ancient Egypt. That's how they used to do it. It's working on some level we can't comprehend. That's, you know, basically trapping and deceiving us here all the time. And so, for instance, in my opinion, when you die and you get these references to people saying, I met Jesus and all this kind of stuff, and they tell you that they met these enlightened beings and everything, because they're so familiar with this symbolism, because they haven't asked what it's all about or anything like that. It's almost like if you, for instance, meet Jesus when you die and you go with him, and he'll tell you can be a lawyer next time, and he'll send you back around again. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're encapsulated in this, as the Tibetans believe, and Tibetan is the New World Order religion, in my opinion. They believe in reincarnation. And so the reason why the reincarnation happens is if you're still duped by this symbolism when you go through. Do you know what I mean? You need to be able to stop, like, you know, believing that this symbolism is here to help you, because it's not. And my opinion is that what's going on is this material reality, whatever we're relating, it's much like the Gnostics believed, and in the sense of the Gnostics believed that there was a creator of the material universe, but they never ever, like, you know, saw their creator as the supreme being, or the God, if you like. The creator was a malevolent force of sorts, keeping us all entrapped in this matter, preventing us from being what we really are. And like the Gnostics used to say, when they died and they met the creator, they used to say, you know, you're not my God, I'm a Gnostic. And essentially that's when they believed that they had moved on from everything. And it's almost like it's the same principle. I mean, they tried to wipe out the Gnostics, did the Roman Catholics, but it's the same principle. Like, people, when this spiritual event happens in 2012, if this spiritual event happens, the obelisks and the pyramids and the symbolism will still be around everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Everyone might be ascended in a spiritual